Thank you. And I am Karen Kiesling. I am moderating this program today with the firm and excellent help of Helen Catanese, who is the technical specialist for the League on Zoom programs. Our special guest today, and long overdue but much awaited, is Judge Gary Libey, the Superior Court Judge of Whitman County. I will be introducing this meeting. Judge Libey will be making statements, talking with us about the court, its workings, for about 20 minutes. After that time, we will take questions. Helen is going to have everyone muted, because if you don't do something like that, people talk over the top of each other. And since we're recording, we want the questions and the answers to be quite clear, as well as the statements. So all of you will be muted. If you wish to ask a question of the judge, we had planned to use the chat function where you would type out. Helen, do we have the chat function?
For whatever reason, and I'll talk to Amy about this and figure out why, but the chat is disabled. I think it has something to do with how she set up the meeting, so I'll be sure to get that fixed for next time.
Okay.
But what that means is if you have a question, go to reactions and just pop a thumbs up, and I'll know that you have a question. And then when we reach an appropriate time, I will unmute you. It should send you a little request that says unmute, and then you can ask your question.
All right, and I would remind you, this is being recorded. It will be on the League website. So when you're asking your questions, be very careful that what you are asking is appropriate for anyone in the public to hear. And with that, I will simply say that this is not just the second time the judge was going to be here, it's the third time. The first time he was going to speak to us as a brown bag, his trial was not finished and he had to cancel to continue that. The second time was St. Patrick's Day, when we went into lockdown and nobody got to do anything for a while. And today we've finally succeeded. So we can say with a whole heart, here comes the judge. And that's our Judge Gary Libey of Whitman County. So Your Honor, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for you all attending today's program on the workings of Whitman County Superior Court. If I need to speak louder, just let me know and I can do that. I greatly appreciate your interest in knowing what is going on here. Normally, you only hear about a controversial or perhaps newsworthy case, and you may not really know much more, except that you don't want to be here. Is that correct?
Correct.
I want to thank Karen Kiesling, former Honorable Mayor of Pullman, for inviting me to speak today. Karen and I actually met on the bus, believe it or not. That's a true story, isn't it, Karen?
It is indeed.
We met on a bus trip. Was it to Elko, Nevada?
No.
I met your great husband, Nick, and you met my lovely wife, Trudy, and it was the Pullman Chamber of Commerce Port of Whitman tour bus tour of Whitman County's port and related infrastructure. I've lived here a long time, and I didn't have a clue of how immense the Port of Wilma is, besides what the inside of a dam looks like, and we got to see all that on that tour. We made the tour and got to know each other and a lot of other people along the way. It was a great tour, and I encourage anyone to go on it whenever the world gets back to normal. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for inviting me and hosting this program. Hello, all members, guests, friends, and fellow citizens. What a crazy week we had. Firestorm Whitman County, who would have ever guessed? But real dry drought conditions, plus a hard, long north wind, and boom, Whitman County is on the front page of the Spokesman Review, the lead news on all the Spokane channels, and is even reported on the national news reports. That's a pretty tough way to get your name out. We are so lucky that no one got injured or killed here in Whitman County, at least to my knowledge. One of the homes destroyed here in Colfax was my former longtime law partners, Wes and Mary Lee Nuxell. Maybe some of you remember them. They both passed away a few years ago. I've been in that house so many times over the years. It's so sad to drive by that house now and see it destroyed. But, Whitman County is resilient. Whitman County residents are resilient, and we will rebuild and we will get back to normal someday. Trudy and I live on the other side of town. That's on Thorn Hill. And we didn't hear any sirens or see any smoke on Monday morning. When we headed downtown about 12:15 for coffee, we were stunned by the sight across town on the west side where we saw flames coming from the Nuxle roof, and farther over the Stickle house in flames and the tea tree shop next door in flames. We know all these people. And there was Trudy's brother, Bones, and his son-in-law, Jay, on the roof of the tea tree home with hoses and sprinklers, and their quick work saved the tea tree home. That was, as we were driving down into town, we saw that. It was just amazing, shocking, and unbelievable. But I know you're not here to listen to more bad news about the fires. Karen wanted me to introduce myself and talk about what got me into this job. So let's start out with the history part. Okay, my parents were Herc and Hattie Libey. My dad was from Viola. My mom's from Palouse, and they met in Spokane after World War II. And I was born in 1951, my sister in 48. I'm a baby boomer. I moved to Colfax. I took my first job here. My wife, Melanie, and I moved here. We had 2 kids, Rochelle, who's now 43, Patrick, who's just about 40. Unfortunately, we split up about 10 years later. And a few years after that, she moved to Spokane, Central Valley. So the kids ended up going to school in Central Valley for the most part. I married Trudy in about 30 years ago. Well, I can't remember the exact year, but 30 years ago this March. I got here, I took a job here in 1976. The firm Nuxle and McBride were looking for a young associate. I heard about the job, and when I was studying for the bar exam at Gonzaga, I had 100 resumes printed up. I sent one to Colfax. I got the job. So the other 99 I threw in the garbage. And why I took the job, I loved it here. I love the attitude. I like the friendliness. I practiced law here for 41 years in the firm that I started as an associate, worked my way up to the senior partner and owner of the firm. I love staying here. I love this area. In my 41 years of legal service, I did a variety of civil work such as personal injury, landlord-tenant, collection work, criminal law, family law, estate planning, ag law. Just a little footnote. My first Superior Court jury trial was my 3rd month here. I was appointed on a felony assault in the 2nd degree. The defendant was an African American accused of assaulting his white roommate. My client was acquitted, found not guilty by an all-white jury in 1977. So it proved to me that you can get justice without the implications of race here in Whitman County. Judge Ferris told my then boss, Wes Nuxle, that he was taking me off the rookie list, which meant back then there were no public defenders like they are now. Judge Ferris would appoint, every attorney was on the judge's list and subject to be appointed to represent indigent criminal defendants. Even old attorneys like Al Scheibel and Hugh Aiken were on the list. So that meant the rookie lawyers there got the appointment when the senior partners did. Rookies got paid $10 an hour and had to have a superintendent present, and they got $15 an hour. So as you can guess, when senior partners got appointed, that meant the rookies in the firm got the job. Years ago, and some of you remember this, years ago there was a pretty vicious murder in Pullman. A traveling salesman entered a dance studio in Pullman about closing time there on Grand and went in and choked to death a very well-known person in Pullman. Judge Ferris appointed Wes Nuxle and Wally Friel to be the public defenders because they were the senior attorneys and he wanted to have, the best legal defense for a murder case. So that meant, as a practical matter, that I got Wes's job, and as it turned out, Wally Friel had a family conflict, so he withdrew. So Judge Ferris appointed young TICO attorney David Frazier to be co-counsel. So as it turned out, 2 future Superior Court judges ended up representing a murder defendant in 1980 that was eventually resolved. By the way, I met the past Honorable Judge Frazier in September 1969 when we both pledged the same fraternity house at WSU. So he's been in my life and I've been in his life for over 50 years, which I don't know if I'm complaining or bragging, and he's probably complaining or bragging too. So come a few years ago, we talked extensively about our future judiciary here in Whitman County when it came time for him to think about retirement. I'd been the district court and Superior Court commissioner and pro tem for many years, and I'd been in practice nearly 41 years. And the Whitman County Superior Court job seemed like a natural step for me at that time. I reached out to several senior attorneys in Whitman County, and they all supported my decision to run. My clients weren't all too happy about me leaving them, but they really understood, and it was time for a change for me and once in a lifetime opportunity to step into a whole new world. So I announced my candidacy in April, and as it turned out, no one filed against me. And I'm not sure if that's what the reason was. I ran unopposed for the open position, which is unheard of. This never happens. And I'm humbled and grateful for the support of our local bar association. It kind of chokes me up. So anyway, as it turned out, I'm running again unopposed. So I'm happy to say that this will be my last term. I am 69 years old. I'll be 73 when the next 4 years go by. I'm in good health as far as I know, and I've gone through a great deal of training for the first 4 years, and I think it's only right to go another 4 and serve out my entire term. I do not intend, nor will I ever resign before the end of that term unless something chaotic happens. By the way, I've gone through my first official hiring process with the county, and believe me, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what forms to fill out. But they helped me through it. I'm pleased to announce that, and I'm very happy to announce that Lorna Lynch, the longtime deputy court clerk here, has been appointed by me as the new court administrator, which became open when Ginger Dvorak announced her retirement last month. It's a stressful, demanding job, especially since I got appointed to be the temporary presiding judge of Asotin, Columbia, and Garfield counties by the Supreme Court last April 19, because of criminal charges against the sitting judge there for sexually assaulting his allegedly court administrator and clerk. So now I'm officially the judge for 4 counties. So as you can imagine, juggling my calendar to be in 4 counties has been a big challenge. Asotin, Columbia, and Garfield counties combined have more judicial business than Whitman County. So it was very concerning that if I had to be there, Whitman County would have to pay for a substitute pro tem for me here. But I just couldn't be there all the time. So I got the Honorable retired Judges Frazier and Robinson to take over down there for the most part. Judge Frazier does the criminal work. Judge Robinson does the civil work, and the county's got a special budget allocation for the extrajudicial costs by the great work of Representative Mary Dye, who worked in conjunction with me and Court of Appeals Judge George Fearing for special funding to cover those extrajudicial costs. So I don't have the pressure on me now to be there because I was free, right? Because I'm already paid by the county full time. So there was reluctance to pay part-time judges and retired judges, so now there's funding. So let me tell you a couple of real true stories here before I get to the handouts. All right, listen up carefully because these are true stories. Okay, a couple in their 90s are both having problems remembering things. During a checkup, the doctor tells them that they're physically okay, but they might want to start writing things down to help them remember. Later that night, while watching TV, the old man gets up from his chair, says to his wife, "Do you want anything while I'm in the kitchen?" His wife says, "Will you get me a bowl of ice cream?" He says, "Sure. Don't you think you should write it down so you can remember it?" she asks. No, he says, "I can remember it." "Well, I like some strawberries on top too. Maybe you should write it down so as not to forget it." He says, "I can remember that. You want a bowl of ice cream with strawberries. I'd also like whipped cream. I'm certain you'll forget that, so write it down," she asked. Irritated, he says, "I don't need to write it down. I can remember ice cream with strawberries and whipped cream. I got it, for goodness sakes." Then he heads off into the kitchen. After about 20 minutes, the old man returns from the kitchen and hands his wife a plate of bacon and eggs. She stares at the plate for a minute and says, "Where's my toast?" All right. We got one more. An elderly couple had dinner at another couple's house. After eating, the wives left the table and went into the kitchen. The two gentlemen were talking, and one said, "Last night we went out to a new restaurant and it was really great. I would recommend it very highly." The other man said, "What's the name of the restaurant?" The first man thought and finally said, "What's the name of that flower you give to someone you love? You know, the one that's red and has thorns." "Do you mean a rose?" his friend asked. "Yeah, that's the one," replied the man. He then turned towards the kitchen and yelled, "Hey, Rose, what's the name of that restaurant we went to last night?" All right, that's my two jokes for the day. All right, so as part of my presentation today, if I'm not running out of time yet, I've emailed some handouts for everybody to have. There was the first set of handouts was the court order and letter to jurors when we restarted our jury trials 2 months ago. We've had two Superior Court criminal jury trials in the last 2 months since the COVID delay. So there's those handouts, and then there's another set of handouts that I think there's 8 different things to props, I'll call them, just for something fun to look at and talk about. And the first handout is the yeah, there you go, is the judicial philosophy. 4 things belong to a judge: to hear courteously, to answer wisely, to consider soberly, and to decide impartially. And I've adopted that as my judicial philosophy from the great Socrates philosopher, and I think that speaks as to what my philosophy is. I also unabashedly have noted the Libey Gallery here at the Betty Steiger Center. And let's see, I wanted to make sure that you were aware that the Steiger Center is now open. And I got ahead of myself here a little bit because I wanted to say that the Don and Betty Steiger some years ago opened up their wallets and their dreams to have a center attached to the library here in Colfax. They were longtime clients and friends, and got the ball rolling with a substantial donation to the library foundation here. And then when it came time for a gallery to be associated and be in the library, well, you can see from the name that Trudy and I were very supportive of that idea, and it became that the foundation named it the Libey Gallery. So that is open now, and it's open for business here in Colfax, and we're awful proud of that to be a permanent monument here in our community for what the people have done. Okay, I had the comment, a couple comments here. One, the question about wanted me to briefly explain the difference between Superior Court and District Court. Okay, so quickly, I'll just say Superior Court is the court of general jurisdiction established by the Washington State Constitution. The Superior Court generally hears family law, probate, land disputes, civil claims over $100,000, felonies, and extraditions. The District Court is a court of limited jurisdiction and can only hear those cases as allowed by the legislature. The District Court hears gross misdemeanors cases such as DUI, petty theft, simple assault, low-level domestic violation orders, civil claims of less than $100,000, small claims, and traffic offenses. The District Court Judge John Hart and I worked great together. We are currently working on a new uniform recording system for the courthouse. Historically, as you recall, there were actually court reporters that took down stenography, the actions, the statements, the words in court. We had a longtime court reporter here, Ollie Faye Gillespie. Some of you may know her. When I first started, she was the court reporter. Adams County had a court reporter who talked into a machine like this, and it recorded in a recording, so you couldn't hear them, but you could hear them because it drove, when I was there in my first case in Adams County with the court reporter talking into the machine, it drove me crazy. I said, I can't come back there. So, but in most courts are now tape recorded, although Spokane County still has court reporters, but most counties have tape recorders. Some people like to see real live transcription, which is expensive for the county. So when the former court administrator, Ollie Faye Gillespie, retired some 25, maybe 30 years ago, Whitman County went to a tape recording system. And as you can guess, the system's hardware and software needs updating and to be the same throughout the courthouse. So I also sent another set of handouts. Anyway, that is going to be the new project now. We've had meetings about the new system in the courthouse, and we're going to have, it's going to be expensive, but we have to do it because every courtroom has a different system. We're going to get one system for the whole courthouse, for the county commissioners meetings, for the courtrooms, and for a couple extra rooms. So with that in mind, I'll skip to the next, I'll skip to the next handout number 2. And that is just an affidavit of probable cause. That's a booking sheet, just to show you what those are for a felony arrest. These are public records filed in the clerk's office. It's a sworn declaration by a police officer stating the facts and the reasons for an arrest. These are not formal charges, but is the start of the criminal process that brings the person arrested to the judge to be advised of why they are arrested, to read their constitutional rights, to have an attorney appointed if they cannot afford an attorney, and to discuss pretrial release conditions. I thought this particular case would be of interest. Charges have not been formally filed, so I won't comment further on this. The third document, or the third, is my letter to all of the Whitman County school superintendents and principals inviting their students to come to court sessions and offering me to come speak at a civics, history, or other class. The administrator of courts has a great list of topics that would be a great learning tool, but guess what? We never got one response. And I'm sure we won't for some time now due to the COVID and the way the school is. But maybe next fall we'll reach out again. But I've been the judge now almost 4 years, and I'm sad to report that we never got one response. The next document, the next thing in my pile of interesting things is an op-ed about a Pierce County Superior Court judge that discusses jury service, and it's a really great discussion on nuts and bolts. I read this to our jurors, and it's part of our introductory process about jury trials. I thought you'd be interested in seeing that. The next handout is a special juror questionnaire we use in cases where there are allegations of a sexual nature. You'd be surprised by the number of people who answer yes to any of these questions. It's very disturbing, very surprising. We interview those jurors separately in open court, but separately without the other jurors present to preserve their privacy. But again, all interviews must be done on the record in open court so people that want to watch can watch. And we do occasionally have people that come to watch court, not a lot, but a few. All right, the next documents are court caseloads. This is the court caseload from 2018, 2019, and through July 2020 for both Adams, Stoughton, Columbia, Garfield, Whitman, and Lincoln County as comparisons. Our overall caseload here is comparable to Stoughton, Columbia, and Garfield combined, and is significantly more than Adams County, and would be significantly more than Lincoln County, except for the divorce statistics. For years, for maybe 25 years, Lincoln County has been known as the divorce capital in the state of Washington. If people want to keep their divorces private or out of their local courthouse or out of the local newspapers, they like to file in Lincoln County, where the former judge didn't make them actually appear in person to finalize. But the current Lincoln County judge now has to hear the follow-up issues on all those divorce cases that have been filed, such as like parents who moved, child support modifications, and all the usual fallout from a divorce. So the caseload there is in Lincoln County, 90% family law, which is totally different than here. So if you look at the statistics, since we have mandatory mediation here, we have very little family law litigation. And that, as that turns out, that turned out to be a great alternative. People like to mediate family law issues. It's been a wonderful decision. That was one of my early decisions that I made. I remember talking to Judge Frazier. I said, what didn't you like about the job? He says, divorces drove me crazy. And I said, well, why didn't we adopt? He says, you do it because you're going to be the new judge. So I adopted a mandatory mediation court rule that requires all divorce cases to go through mediation before they can be set for trial. And guess what? I think we've only had one case come to trial since that rule was adopted. So I think it's been a success. It's been a big, I get positive feedback from people that say, thanks for letting me miss having to go to court to get divorced. Mediation is this wonderful way to resolve things. Whitman County, as you'll see from the ratings there, is rated by the Administrator of Courts as a full-time 1.58 judge, meaning that we really have enough business for 1.5 judges. But we manage being, you can be, we're good timekeepers and we know when to hold them and know when to fold them, as they say. So we're good with our time. I've been able to fit in Asotin, Columbia, Garfield counties, and I also take any case that the Spokane County reaches out for and needs a traveling judge or for a case where all the judges have been disqualified. I volunteer for every case that's open. Sometimes Judge Strohmeyer from Lincoln County beats me to the draw, and sometimes Judge Dixon from Adams County beats me to the draw because they both volunteer for any open case that needs a judge. So I've been in Spokane 6 times. I've been in Adams County 30 or more times. I've been assigned a case in Lincoln County, and I'm glad to go to other counties if needed. So this is statistics here. I thought you might be interested in just showing you the numbers. There are statistics from all 38 counties or 39 counties in Whitman, in the state of Washington. We're number 38. They go by, and Adams is 1, Asotin, Columbia, Garfield are noted as 2. So we're number 38. Okay, and the next brochure, number 7, is the brochure explaining the Whitman County Superior Court Drug Treatment Court. Judge Frazier, Prosecuting Attorney Dennis Tracy, the public defender, Steve Martinick, and others collaborated some 15 years ago to formalize a drug court that would allow certain drug-related offenders to petition and enter a contract to be drug-free, to get clean UAs, to come to court every month, and to enter long-term intensive chemical dependency treatment, which if they successfully complete, after 2 years, the charges would be dismissed with prejudice, meaning they couldn't be filed again, and the person would be released from any further obligations in Whitman County. It's a great opportunity and a great result, and you'll see the drug treatment court still has Judge Frazier's name on it, and names there's no use in updating those are all the same forms that we use. And that's been a great alternative. I think we have about 15 to 18 people now in drug court, and it's a great program. And I've personally been able to hug 4 or 5 people who have successfully completed the program. And it's very emotional and very happy to be able to hug a person and say you made it and you're on the other side and your life will be better for you. The last thing I have is something just funny. An article from 1990 I found in a drawer here that Judge Friel must have saved about controversial case he had. It just sounded a bit of Whitman County history, I guess, not for laughs, if you get what I mean, not for laughs, because Wally was accused of laughing at a witness. So that's a quick outline of what the Superior Court does. I hope you enjoyed it. And so at this point, if you'd like to have questions, we've got time for that. I think it's only 12:31. That was pretty quick overall. I didn't talk about search warrants, but if you want, I can say a couple words about search warrants before questions. But search warrants are a 24/7, I call it a 24/7, 365, because the officers involved in investigations are on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year, and frequently need search warrants, mostly drug related, but occasionally you can't believe the kinds of things that they are looking for. But most of the time it's for drug related matters, but in some cases it's for phone related matters and for phone connections of who was trying to, for example, blackmail a female student who inadvertently sent pictures, compromising pictures, to a website that she thought was secure and wasn't. So people get those and they try to blackmail, and I see mostly female students who become victims of blackmail from posting pictures that they didn't mean to be on the to be loose and used by others. But anything that goes on the internet, as you all probably know, once it's out there for unscrupulous people to use and to try to what I call intimidate and to blackmail people to pay money or to do other things so that they don't put those pictures on public media. So most of the search warrants I sign, fortunately, are brought to me during business hours or during waking hours. The kinds of warrants that come from midnight to 6 in the morning, those usually go to the district court judge, John Hart, because as a practical reason, I have to review whether the warrants were valid or not. If they're challenged, then it's better that I'm not having to review whether I did something wrong or whether I issued a warrant without the proper foundation, without the proper probable cause, and crossing the T's and dotting the I's that needed search warrants. So, as a practical matter, Judge Hart does the night search warrants because those are the ones that are easy to make a mistake on. You get woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and the officers want you to read 5 pages of detailed information about why they've stopped the vehicle and why they think there's drugs in the vehicle and why they think this person who they've stopped has possession of the drug. So when you wake up at 2 in the morning to try to be sharp, it's a tough job. That's a tough part of this job, is to be woken up. And I have been. Luckily, I haven't been lately, but we've just got a warrant here today for phone records of an alleged criminal activity that occurred in Pullman. Most of our action, as you'd guess, would come out of Pullman because that's where the population is. But we get our fair share of people in criminal court anyway, from Tico, Malden, Rosalia, Colfax. I mean, there's no certain place where it happens, but with there were some notorious criminals that lived in Malden that may be moving from Malden now, unfortunately for the rest of the city, but fortunately for maybe Whitman County, there's a couple notorious ones there that may be moving. So anyway, that's the kind of business we do here. I'm assisted by my new court administrator, Lorna Lynch. She took over for Ginger Dvorak, who retired last month. And Lorna has been the longtime deputy clerk here for 25 years. And I couldn't have found a better person to be my court clerk. So can I just move the computer so you can say hi to Lorna Lynch.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Lorna. Thank you for being here. Judge Libey, I would like to move into the question section now. And I'm going to turn the control of the microphones over, the muting and the non-muting, to Helen Catanese. And I'm going to ask her to explain how, if you have a question, you identify yourself to Helen, and I'll come back on when we have to turn off the program. But I hope there are questions, and I think we've learned a lot already. Thank you. Helen?
So just to remind you guys, if you have a question, you can either use the thumbs up reaction like this, or you can wave me down if you can't figure that out, or if you just feel like it. Either of those is fine, and then I will try and unmute you guys in an orderly procession. So please. All right, Bobby.
So I have read recently about the protesters around the country and the impact of their choices to protest and make statements of the cause that they support wholeheartedly of equal rights and that Black Lives Matter. And I'm wondering what your thoughts as a judge are on the impact of those that have been arrested and what this may mean for their records.
Well, let me try to answer that. Well, those people that have been arrested will go through the criminal procedure process. They're presumed innocent, and they've got the right to counsel and for pretrial release hearings, and and if they're charged with any criminal offense, they'll go through the criminal justice system. I don't give me more specifics if you've got something more you want me to say.
No, I just was wondering if you had any perspective from some of your other judge colleagues of. I've just read articles. I think there is one in Time magazine actually about the impact this is having on people's lives. Even though they went to stand up for a cause, and even though they didn't commit any criminal act, they were arrested and thrown in jail and had to wait to get out. And I mean, in terms of future employment for them, being able to get housing, applying for leases, and anytime that something like your criminal record shows up, they ask for a background check.
Sure they do. And sometimes they ask questions that, have you ever been arrested? And you have to answer, I guess you'd have to answer yes to be truthful if that question was asked. But I think most employers would know that a person just being arrested doesn't mean that you were convicted. It means that there could, there's an explanation for everything that happens in life. But I don't have much to say on that. I can't, judges can't speak on outstanding cases, but I think we're all aware and we're all sensitive to race and implied biases. And I've gone through training to recognize, try to analyze my own biases and to try to recognize them and to try to overcome. We're all, I was born and raised in Spokane by a police officer who was my dad, who I loved, and my mom worked at Sears and Roebuck, both working parents. We were pretty blue collar, lived up by Northtown, went to Rogers High School. So, I mean, we had African Americans in my school. I went to WSU from 69 to 73. If you recall, the spring of 1970, there were demonstrations throughout America. There was the Kent State shooting, and there were student unrest for Vietnam, protests, for racial protests, for everything in society at that time was being protested. So WSU gave the students the option of of leaving for home about the 1st of May and just taking your grade that you had, or if you were crazy enough, you could stay and finish out the year. But my whole fraternity and everybody else that we knew of just said, let's get out of here. It's kind of dangerous around here. We'll just take our grade, what we got, and be gone. But that was the campus I lived in. I went through at WSU, and it was tense. I was in ROTC my first year and a half, marched around the stadium, marched around the campus, and got things thrown at us. When I got a high draft number, 309 to be exact, when the numbers came out, and at that point I knew I wasn't going to get drafted, so I ended my potential future military career. I quit ROTC. My dad was mad at me. He was a World War II veteran. He thought I should stick it out, but anyway, the long and the short is I didn't, and he got over it, and I was sort of glad I didn't have to go to Vietnam. I regret a lot that I wasn't a veteran, that I didn't serve, but I'm kind of glad that I wasn't one of the 58,000 who perished in Vietnam. But most of our people that we went to college were deferred, and then the draft ended about I graduated from college, I think, in 73, and I think the draft ended right about then. The war was over and the draft ended, so we didn't have to serve, we didn't have to join. And so it ended up where Judge Frazier came from Oakdale. He was born in Walla Walla, raised in Oakdale, and he and I ended up joining the same fraternity with several other people who were interested in becoming lawyers. And I think there were 6 of us out of our fraternity pledge class that became attorneys in the state of Washington. I'm the last one still working. So, but I enjoy the job. I feel great. I look forward to coming to work every day. I look forward to working with people, helping people. That's our job here in providing justice to the system. We're helping people, and that's how I look at the job. So, got a hand up.
Got a couple. I think Paul's got a question, and then I'll go back to Karen.
Are there any other changes or improvements to the system that you're considering comparable to the drug and mediation and so on?
Well, the drug court and I didn't say this, but I adopted mandatory mediation family law cases the first day I was on the job, and that's been a great success. The drug court has been a great success. I haven't considered anything else. I'm open to suggestions, but right now we're in the midst of, like I say, getting a new recording system and hardware and software in all 3 courtrooms. And like there's one here in Superior Court, and there's 2 district court courtrooms, one here in Colfax and one in Pullman. And then there's the commissioner's office, and then there's the public service building, and then they want another one. So that's our focus here lately. The county had plans to remodel the whole courthouse, including my office and up and down the hallway here, not the courtroom because it's been remodeled, but that's been put on hold since due to the COVID. It stopped everything in its tracks. But the courtroom here was remodeled right before I took office. Thank you, Judge Frazier, for doing that, because this courtroom was a hollow echo chamber, drab, dreary, and almost like a dungeon in a lot of ways. Old curtains, and anyway, Judge Frazier got the funding from the state to remodel the courtroom, and I'm the fortunate beneficiary of that because I stepped in just at the right time. So it's a beautiful courtroom. We've got COVID, I guess, what do you call it? COVID walls or COVID glass, plastic around the clerk's office. Maybe I can show that to you. You can see it. I can watch this computer around a little bit, show you the clerk's desk and where she sits. Now it's surrounded by plastic, and there's, so it's COVID protected. We also have the witness stand that's surrounded in plastic, which is COVID tested. You'll see the witness stand here. And then we just had put in back here a plastic wall. You'll see where the jurors are spaced. We have a 3-foot spacing available here in the courtroom per labor and industry law. So you'll see that we've got 3-foot spacing. And the jurors had mentioned or sort of complained that they were hearing statements made by the gallery here back here during the court process. So we have added a plastic partition to partition off those sounds from the jury, from the mumblings of the jurors. So that's how the courtroom looks. If you haven't been in the courtroom, you're sure invited to come over. I've got some great pictures of historical pictures from the Whitman County Historical Society. And I just have to mention this first one right here, because this is a picture that was donated by Stan and Lynn McClintock, who are my wife's parents. So of course I had to have their picture put up prominently in the courtroom. You know, you got to keep those wives and in-laws happy, right? So, and here's the new thing here. If I whirl this around, we have a 85-inch TV in here now that we use for playing CDs, DVDs, and it's great for if they can use it to scan documents. Anyway, it's a great tool to utilize here as an overhead, because we didn't have one before. We had just a little overhead monitor, which wasn't very big. So this 85-inch TV, we had to do a little remodeling in here, but we did it, and that's been a great addition. I didn't know until I took the job that the Superior Court gets money from the state each month, or the court system, and we split it between District Court and Superior Court 50-50, but we get about, I think about $8,000 a quarter from the state for judicial needs. So we split it with the District Court. So altogether we get, Superior Court gets maybe about $20,000 a year from the state for projects such as court remodeling, new furniture, new microphones, that sort of thing. And these glass partitions and these additions from the COVID are reimbursed to us through the state of Washington through what's called the CARES Act, and that's from the federal government. They pass money out to the state. State passes money back to us, and so that's where we get the funds to operate. We have a pretty small budget. My salary, the court administrator's salary, and some funds for equipment, supplies, but we have a pretty Spartan budget in Superior Court. I think we're the smallest budget of all the departments in the courthouse, because it's just me and now my new court administrator, Lorna, as employees, and we don't really have too much fixtures or equipment to worry about, and we're pretty solid with what we do have. We have a nice courtroom. It's really user friendly. So, okay, any more questions?
Karen, did you have something you wanted to ask about, or should I look for the next person?
I'll let you go on to Lennis. I'll yield to Lennis.
Thank you. So I have a question about mental health holds, which has been before my retirement has been an issue. Do you know of any movement to expand those from 72 hours to something that's more meaningful?
I have not. I've not heard anything about that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a question maybe for Mary Dye or Mark Schessler or Joe Schmick, but I haven't heard anything about that.
Okay.
Judge Libey, I wonder if you have any comment about any changes that you see, pluses, minuses, nothing, about the legal use of marijuana. Do you see that coming up in court cases that come before you, or do you see nothing of that?
Well, I've seen some of it. Let me think for a second for an example. Marijuana, possession of marijuana is legal now, as you know, in the state of Washington, of limited amount. It can't be over a certain amount. I forget what that is, but there is a limited amount to what a person can have. And I haven't seen, of course, I've only been the judge. I've been the judge since that law was in effect, some 7-8 years ago. And what I've seen is the drug, the street drug that is the real crime street drug is methamphetamine. That's the real street drug that is the real problem drug. That is very, very addictive, very easy to make, very it's easy to get. So marijuana, the use of marijuana has become part of our accepted society rules, which the courts have recognized. And so the police officers have changed. The dogs had to retool their sniffing so they don't sniff out marijuana now. They don't. They're trained not to alert to marijuana. So they're trained to alert just to the other drugs, which they do. But the drug that is the nemesis of society is methamphetamine. And they say that if you take it once, you're hooked. And the people that come through here that are on methamphetamine, they don't have teeth, they're gaunt, their eyes are sucked in, they're white, they're puffy, they look terrible. And you can tell by looking that they've had a drug use, and it's been typically methamphetamine. We're a pretty clean county. The ones that get caught for the most part are people traveling through here, and the police officers pull them over because they got a tail light out or headlight out or some minor thing, and that evolves into a drug bust because the officer notes that the driver's impaired by his or her physical activities or answers to the police officer. So it turns into perhaps a search of the vehicle via either a search warrant or the consent of the driver. And then the officer finds drugs and an arrest is made based on probable cause. And that person then is brought to court the next day, not necessarily charged, but they've been arrested on what's called probable cause. And most of the time charges are filed, but sometimes they aren't for a variety of different reasons. The court, the officers sometimes have to further investigate the case by getting search warrants or by contacting other witnesses, getting analysis is completed of the drugs that they do find. They can field test most drugs, but for court business, to be admitted in court, they have to come in through the crime lab technician who comes to court from Spokane, reports the findings of that person that did the analysis of that particular drug. So what have I seen in court that I've seen some very interesting cases. I've only been the judge now on my 4th year, and I've seen anywhere from sexual assault that was claimed by the victim, and she was in essence fabricating because she was caught having sex with another guy, and her boyfriend walked in on her. And anyway, that case went to trial. That was quite a case. But you can see we've had those are cases that you don't forget. We've had cases in football player, WSU or 2, not very many, 1 or 2, but they haven't been in here like years ago. I've only had 1, I think, and he was found not guilty, and so we haven't had athletes in here like yesteryear. So that's been good. I think the coaches and the administration has kept that they got good kids coming to WSU, and that's what we want. Good kids coming to WSU. Okay. Got a question?
Oh, Alice Schroeder. Some years ago, the League was instrumental in inspiring the county to start the drug court. I know that there are also mental health courts. Are you interested in starting such a thing? Can the League help in any way?
Sure. I'm always interested in looking at different things. We do, like you say, we do have a drug court. Uh, you know, we don't have, I haven't seen the need for an official mental health court. The mental health issues we get in court, if they're that significant, they're sent off, those people are sent to Eastern State Hospital for treatment, for evaluation and treatment. So that's what happens to them. We don't have that basic need that I've seen here for a mental health court, because we've got Eastern and that's what they handle. And we've had some mentally ill people come through here, and not very often, but probably 2 or 3 a year end up in an evaluation out of Eastern, or whether they're A, competent to stand trial, and B, whether they, if they're competent to stand trial, were they legally insane at the time of the incident. So those are very rare circumstance. We don't have very many of those. You know, the county we live in, we have transients that do come through, but most of our population here are longtime citizens that live here for the good reason that this is a great community to live. And most of our citizens live here because they're related to the university or related to something related to the university. I got here because I took my first job out of law school, and I've been here ever since, and I'm so glad and so happy and so lucky that I got here. My parents are in the Colfax Cemetery. My sister and I have plots next to our parents here. So you got me for the rest of my life and thereafter, and that's how I'm going to be. I love it here in Whitman County and wouldn't change it for anything.
Helen, thank you. I think we're coming to the end of our hour. If there is a final brief question, we could take that, but then we're going to wrap up because our time is 12 to 1. And I guess my really quick question for you, Judge Libey, since no one else raised their hand, is elder law an issue in Whitman County as many people get older and older and we have issues about making decisions? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, sure. That's a big issue, and proper estate planning is important, such as having powers of attorney, update your wills and your trust. But yes, that's a concern. We're an aging society. I'm a baby boomer, but I'm a 69-year-old baby boomer, and the baby boomers are now starting to fall off the edge. So it's important that you have your estate planning documents up to date, and that you have current durable powers of attorney. That's a very important subject. And that was sort of my my work product. I was, as you know, in private practice for 41 years and did a lot of estate planning. So that's a thing that everybody should have a durable power of attorney. Everybody, no matter really how old they are, because accidents can happen, and you certainly want to have that in place. So.
Thank you very much. And we appreciate so much your being with us. The third time was the charm. We hope that we'll come back in other brown bag sessions in later years and get an update. So thank you to everyone who came to the brown bag. And there's our good luck for next St. Patrick's Day.
That is correct.
And then a special thank you to Helen Catanese for making all of this possible. And there will be a continuation of brown bags throughout the academic year with the League. Third Thursday, is that correct? It's the third Tuesday of each month is the brown bag meeting. Thank you all, and thank you, Helen. Thank you, Judge Libey.
Thanks a
Thank
bunch.
you.
Also,
Okay.
before we go out, I just wanted to remind everybody of the League nonpartisan statement that I think we forgot, but the League is a nonpartisan organization. We don't support any political parties or candidates. We do take positions on issues. But yeah, thanks so much, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Judge Libey.
Okay, thank you. Kind of skipped so much stuff, but I got more.
It was good to see everybody.